And tonight, you've arrived at a place where childhood dreams will come true with the big city of New York as a backdrop.
With the first pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select...
Check it. I'm gonna take you on a little field trip back in time. Yeah, and in this era, a lot of obstacles had to be overcome just to get to your destination. And my destination was the NBA. See, I wanted to be with the ballers and the shot callers. So I teamed up with Wassup Sal, 2K Sports to share my journey about making the NBA in the 1990s. See, my story begins way back in the 1970s in Detroit, Michigan. Yeah, Motown, a city that everybody wanted to move to at one point.
Detroit once was called the City Beautiful.
Well, times got hard, and in the 70s, whether it was drugs, alcohol, or poverty, the city took a dark turn as it quickly became one of the most dangerous cities in the USA, making it the murder capital. And with the danger arising, the mayor had to step in and try to appoint new laws, new regulation, new safety. None of that seemed to work. But thankfully, my father, Robert Cole, was a straight up guy. See, my dad worked as a mechanic basically all his life. And in his 20s, he was working so hard to save up enough money, he opened his own car shop. He became the go-to guy, the man of Motown. But what's a man without a woman on his side? And that's when my mom steps in, Sheila. And when Sheila met my dad, it became a power couple around the city. In 1977, yeah, that's where I entered the picture. I was born William Cole in Detroit, Michigan. And growing up in the 80s, despite the harsh conditions, my parents kept me out of trouble. My dad even saved up enough to take me to the Pistons games to watch Isaiah Thomas. So much so that I just knew basketball was my dream. And as I got older, I made it a point to stay straight up in school, keep my grades up, so I could have my dreams complete and making it to the NBA one day. And after winning Homecoming King during my senior year of high school, I decided I would announce my college decision, where I'll be accepting a full ride to the University of Kansas in 1995. Man, I remember this day like it was yesterday. November 1995, my college debut for the Kansas Jayhawks. And yeah, I'm starting, but I'm far from alone, as this team was already loaded before I got here. We had Jock Vaughn at the starting point guard position, great floor general. And on the inside, we had two dominant bigs, and Scott Pollard and potential NBA draft pick, Rafe LaFrance. Between them two, things were on lockdown in the paint. And on the wings, I had a fellow freshman that came with me, all the way out from California, named Paul Pierce. So I was not alone in this freshman class, and a lot of eyes were on him. So for me, my job was to fit in, yet stand out. And my game is simple. See, I didn't have all the jump shots and the three-point line they added about 10 or so years ago. My game was getting straight downhill to the basket with my long wingspan, getting the buckets that way, and getting back on defense and locking up. That's what's gonna get me to the next level. I already know it. Not to mention, I feel like I got the handle of a Tim Hardaway. So for me, standing at 6'8", about 190 pounds, I feel like I fit the NBA mold. It's just about proving it here at the college level. And in my dreams, I would love to be out of college as soon as possible. See, yeah, I did all the studying in high school to get to this level, but if it's up to me, I would have skipped college, but I don't think I was that good. So that's why I stay here at Kansas right now. In my first game, we got up to a great start. I'm talking about I was getting to the basket like it was nobody in front of me. And shout out to Louisville too. They had a guy named Samaki Walker who was also good, but our team right here was just fully loaded. And I ain't gonna lie, this dude Paul Pierce was a bucket. I don't feel like I ever seen that back home in Detroit. Between me and him, we helped lead Kansas to the first win of the season against Louisville, and I had a calm game. 14, 7 boards and 3 assists. And I made the Rock Chalk newspaper. They said I got a bright future between me and Paul. Well, speaking of freshmen, the year is 1995. And there was a freshman that attended University of North Carolina that had everybody's attention. Matter of fact, scratch that. It was a couple of them. First one being Vince Carter out of Daytona Beach, Florida. Supposed to be a real high flyer and an athlete. We gonna see. And down there in the middle, they had big Antoine Jameson, another freshman. Not to mention, they already had Shammond Williams at the point guard. So this is gonna be a tough battle before conference play. Another home game. So we're gonna need the crowd turn up for us. And for me, well, my job was gonna be simple this game. I got Vince, and Vince got me, mano y mano. And early on, I established my presence by pulling up for a mid-range shot, and while it looked definitely ugly, it went in. That's all that matters, right? They don't give you extra points for being pretty. And on the defensive side of the ball, this is where I knew I was going to make my bread butter. Where the cream was going to rise to the top. Where the scouts was going to write down in their notebooks. Is when I had Vince Carter scratching his head, pounding the ball, burning the shot clock, and throwing up a bad shot. And I grabbed the board too. And on offense, if it wasn't me or the other guys, it was definitely Paul. Between us two freshmen, shoot, we look like the better two on the court tonight. Let me slow down. Definitely nothing was perfect this game, as Vince not only defended me, but he pulled up for a mid-range and transition and buried it. Now I ain't gonna lie to y'all, Vince might have had this offensive thing on a lockdown, but for me, I had to keep the game simple. Get to the basket, cut through the open lanes, and focus on defense. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all would have thought I had a bounty on Vince Carter the way I was locking him down. And for the offensive side, I just ran off screens and trusted my mid-range shot. Miss or make. Listen, you can't get better without trying. But I figured in my second game, why not give it a shot and work out the kinks early. Speaking of kinks, man, I had this dude Vince Carter missing and bricking, and I knew he wasn't scoring on me at all. The one position I didn't get back in transition, he took it out on Jock Vaughn as he put him right underneath the basket and in the rim. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I might believe everything they saying about this kid. But listen, it's a team sport. And for my team, we were looking like a well-oiled machine. As late in the second half, we took a 23-point lead on them, dropping 80 on them with 5 minutes left. But hey, don't tell Vince that, because my mans was getting buckets till the buzzer went off. I'm talking about he didn't care nothing about that score. He was determined to show scouts what he could do. You see, Vince dropped 25, and I only dropped 12 on 8 rebounds. And after watching him, I realized I needed to have a breakout performance of my own. It's December, and we taking our show on the road in a big time game. Yeah, we out in Durham, North Carolina, Cameron Indoor Stadium, taking on the Duke Blue Devils. And while Grant Hill and Christian Laettner and them boys are well gone in the NBA, shoot, it's still Duke, the mighty Blue Devils, huh? For me, I was just itching to have a breakout performance. Up to this point, I barely could scratch 15 points, which is cool. But I wanted to showcase all I could do on the court. I mean, at this point, everybody knows I can cut to the basket and get an easy layup. Cool. There's 1,000 guys that could do that. But who could do extra? Who could do more? And early on, it was looking like Paul Pierce was that guy. I'm talking about my mans could get a mid-range shot like it was nothing. And a little part of me became a little jealous. Like, coach was calling up plays for him just to ISO. Like, bro was a freshman getting his own shot. Even if he missed, he would get it right back and get another bucket. And that's stuff I feel like I need to be doing too. I mean, I get it. We both trying to go to the next level, right? So I decided whenever I got the ball, I was going to be more aggressive, attacking off the dribble. Hey, between me and Paul, we were taking turns running through Duke early on in this game. See, Paul was getting up shots as soon as he touched it. And I ain't gonna lie, he had the hot end early, so I had to feed him, according to coach. As soon as he touched the rock, he was in goal mode. I'm talking about post fadeaways, butter. And early on in the first half, we only had a 5-point lead as Duke was hanging on tight. So out in the second half, I decided to scratch whatever coach was talking about. Let me get to my buckets. Let me get my shine. This might be the biggest game of the season. So we're barely having a couple points on the board. I get to the free throw line and first shot, it's extremely off. There goes another point of emphasis I need to work on. And I made the second one. That may have gave me a little momentum boost as I grabbed the rebound, get all the way down the court, spin off, and get an easy layup. And after that, I felt myself getting hyped. Felt my energy rising. As I took the ball from the corner, rose up with my left hand, and yammed it right all over the Duke defender. Man, when I was in the air, I felt like Clyde Drexler. Shoot, Dominique Wilkins. I got up so high, I could have kissed the rim. And after that dunk, I felt like nobody on this court could check me. I'm talking about I did an unnecessary spin move down the lane and laid it up and got the and one. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little gassed. I ain't never went this hard in a college game yet. But I already had 17 points on efficient shooting, and I'm clearly having my best night yet. So I gotta keep it going. So I get to the free throw line so you can try to complete my and one. And something in my head told me, maybe I need to showcase see what all I can do on this court. So I even tried to get my mid-range going at the end of this game. Big mistake. I started breaking, ruined my field goal percentage a little bit. So I had to get it back by getting easy dunks and layups. And I did end up finishing the game with 21, not to mention 11 boards, and I still found a way to get 3 assists too. And after the game, I made the Rock Chalk newspaper again. As the media and the scouts are starting to take notice. there was a guy out there that was doing it way better than me as a sophomore. Listen, we back home in Kansas again, yes. This time, playing the Georgetown Hoyas, who were featuring arguably one of the best players in the nation already as a sophomore at the point guard position. And while it wasn't my duty, shoot, as long as all 5 of us on the court, all eyes was going to be on AI, Allen Iverson. Yeah, this kid went through a lot already. A lot of allegations, nobody knows what's true or not. But all I do know is, on the court, he's one of the best guards that I've ever seen with my own eyes. Tonight, it was time for us to check up. And for Jock Vaughn, he got caught in a daydream watching AI spam dribble moves that we never seen before. Thankfully enough, I came over for the help. But as for me, this game was continuously trying to show off my skill set. Hey, AI might already be stamped. It's potentially the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft if he decides to leave. But for me, I'm trying to get my name up there too. This draft is supposed to be loaded. And me and Paul, well, we got something to say about that. And early on in this game, we had AI in check. Listen, that man AI was probably used to getting to the basket on his own terms, shooting over everybody. But tonight, Kansas, yeah, we were dominating. I don't think I told y'all, but we ranked the number 5 team in the country coming into this game. And as for Georgetown, but they were number 3. So this game was prime time television. And I made sure I put my stamp on it, that nobody on Georgetown could check me. At this point in the season, I became comfortable with who I am. A rim attacker, a decent passer, and a finisher. Not to mention, I'm quite the defender. With all the scouts here to see AI, I'm pretty sure a lot of them were left taking notes about me too. And Allen Iverson, he did finish the game with about 30 points. I ain't even gonna lie to you guys, that boy was tough. My team had control the whole way through. Georgetown couldn't hold a candle to us, and I knew after this game, we were gonna move right up the polls, potentially number 1. Speaking of moving up, I got all the way up for this dunk and flushed it with 2 hands, putting on a show here at Kansas. For the first time in my life, I had a bunch of people I did not know screaming my name in support. And to put an exclamation point on this game, I smacked AI's shot all the way over the camera crew into the first row to make a statement. Yeah, AI may be the guy, but I got an answer for that. And I finished the game with 19-10 and my favorite 5 assists. At this point, I'm ready for the conference play. January 96, getting in the Big 12 Conference. And our first game against the Oklahoma Sooners. At this point, we'd already showed the nation that we one of the best teams out there, conference or not. And as my grandma used to say, well, we made Oklahoma go and get a switch as we put a whooping on them. And I ain't gonna hold y'all. This is a preview of the whole conference. This is about to be easy. And for me, I just glided throughout the whole court like Walt Frazier and threw it down with my left hand, just creating memories out here in Kansas. I'm really in uncharted territory. I had never been outside of Detroit. To think now, I've become such a household name in the state, in a town, that I've never thought I'd be in a million years. We would roll through the conference for most of this season, eventually becoming the number 1 team in the nation. And eventually, questions would arise if I would leave college early and go to the NBA draft. After only 1 year? I was really unprecedented. Matter of fact, it was frowned upon. See, I was the man here at Kansas, and I started to get offers and calls from agents in the NBA saying I should leave early. But head coach Roy Williams made it clear that if me or Paul Pierce decided to leave early for the NBA draft, we would not be able to participate in the upcoming March Madness tournament. And being that we were the number 1 team in the country, this decision wasn't going to be easy. With the school riding on my back, he was either chasing my NBA dreams or chasing a national championship. Well, it's the end of February 1996. We're still the number 1 team in the nation. And to close the season, we're facing our in-state rivals, the Kansas State Wildcats. There was a lot of questions denied surrounding this game. See, I haven't announced my decision whether to stay or go yet. So this could potentially be the last game I play in the Kansas uniform. Or I could put my selfishness to the side and stick it out for my guys. Regardless of whatever I thought, my head was all over the place. In this game, my last game here in the regular season, I was putting up brick after brick, having a terrible showing. And I couldn't lie to y'all. The weight of this decision was weighing heavy on my shoulders, so much so that I don't even remember what I did this game. The only thing I remember I did positive was get a steal, and out in the transition, I cradled it with my right hand and dunked it, looking like Mike a little bit. And see, that's what I feel like I could take to the next level right now. Why should I wait an extra year? In my last collegiate game, during the regular season, I finished with 7 points, 3 assists, and 11 rebounds. But one thing that's not on this stat sheet is I had one humongous decision to make at the conclusion of this game. And what would y'all do in my situation? So I sat in my dorm room for hours, days, contemplating what should I do next. I would call my pops, my mom, everybody back home. Not to mention, I'll be watching NBA games. And the decision became clear. I decided I would forego the rest of my college eligibility and enter my name into the NBA draft. The hardest part was telling the coaching staff as they yelled at me, screamed at me, and dismissed me from the office and made me announce it to the public all by my lonely. So I had to face the media and the cameras and announce my decision, much to the disappointment of all the Kansas fans across the country. But hey, I had to look up for myself. I'm trying to make it to the NBA. Regardless, it seems like the fans turned on me and made a mockery out of me. So I knew where their heart slid the whole time. As for me, well, my job was done. I skipped out on the national tournament and went to the NBA draft. See, Paul Pierce, he decided to stick around. Surprisingly, more power to him. But the summer arrived, my bags were packed, headed to New Jersey to potentially hear my name called in the '96 NBA draft.
With the first pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Allen Iverson from Georgetown University.
Obviously, I knew I wasn't going number one, but I ain't gonna lie. Seeing all the guys get off the board early on kind of made my stomach squeal a little bit. See, before the draft, I was promised to be the lottery pick, but as the lottery was progressing, it seemed like them dreams was fading. Then I got a call from the Charlotte Hornets saying that if they got the pick, then they'd get me. And the Charlotte Hornets indeed had the number 13 pick in the NBA draft. So hey, here's my time.
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
Every place that he worked out, nothing but praise. No one talking about any shortness or a weakness in his game.
Wow. After the Hornets promised that they would take me number 13, they went ahead and selected this kid named Kobe Bryant out of high school. I mean, I know his dad played in the NBA, but he didn't even come to the college level to compete. So how much better is he than me?
15th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns select Steve Nash from the University of Santa Clara.
Man, it seems like they're just pulling names out of a hat, because I've never even heard of Santa Clara before. And I'm sitting here out of the lottery, thinking about all the people laughing at me making my decision to leave college early.
With the 16th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select.
And then it happened. I'm in Charlotte all along, so they kept true to their word. But while they did take Kobe Bryant at the number 13th pick, they said I was the guy, no matter what. And I'm ready to take on the NBA in the 1990s.
Good morning. Breaking news. We gonna get straight into it, y'all. The Charlotte Hornets are trading the rights to 13th overall pick Kobe Bryant to the Los Angeles Lakers, y'all, in exchange for Vlade Divac. It seemed like the boy Kobe Bryant threatened to play in Italy if he wasn't chose by the team of his liking. I wish him the best of luck out there struggling in the rebuild in LA. Now, meanwhile, for Charlotte, they are really excited about the 19-year-old kid out of Kansas they just drafted. What's his name again?
Oh, you talking about Will Cole, dawg?
Yeah, Will Cole.
I ain't gonna lie, bro, he cold as hell. That boy can hoop.
And they said that they believe Will Cole gonna make a immediate impact on their team. It kind of makes you wonder if Charlotte made the right decision by keeping Cole, or will Bryant turn out to be a better player? Man, I mean, the 1996-97 season will have fans wondering, Will or Kobe? Y'all let me know what y'all think, y'all. Call in and let's talk about it on Fox. We keeping it live here, man, on FXM Radio.
We back. In the year 1996. If you weren't watching Got Milk commercials, you were probably watching the Chicago Bulls win their 4th NBA title of the decade. Michael Jordan and company looked unstoppable. And after that, well, the Olympics happened to be in Atlanta this year. We got to see another version of the Dream Team. While it wasn't like 92, this team still won gold. For legends like Isaiah Thomas, well, he got his jersey retired in February of '96. Was my favorite player. But you know what they say? Out with the old and in with the new. So the NBA would see some fresh faces in '95, '96 like Kevin Garnett, the 18-year-old kid who took over. But he wasn't even Rookie of the Year. That belonged to Damon Stoudemire, aka Mighty Mouse of the Toronto Raptors, who also just became a franchise in '95 as well. Oh yeah, and let me reintroduce myself. My name is Will William Cole, son of Robert and Sheila, who in 1996 looks to prove not only to Charlotte to the NBA why I belong. Not too long after the NBA draft, I got on my flight and headed to Charlotte, and they took me around the city. It wasn't like the New York City or Chicago or even the Detroit, but Charlotte was nice. And I was able to sign my rookie contract, and after a great offseason, training camp, we headed to preseason where I was putting in a lot of work. So much so that they surprised me. In the last preseason game, they threw me in the starting rotation in a lineup that featured short, but yet big at heart Muggsy Bogues. My man's was only about 5'3", but he played like he was 6'3", and I had a lot of respect for him. And following the last season, the Hornets made a trade with the Knicks to get Anthony Mason for Larry Johnson. It did surprise a lot of people as the Knicks were just in the finals not too long ago, but Anthony Mason looks to be a huge part of our rotation in his team this year. But our best player, in my opinion, at least on offense, is definitely Glenn Rice. I don't know what the future of the league is going to look like, but a lot of people believe he's going to be the prototype. A big that can stretch the floor and shoot the three. It's a beauty. And down in the middle, we got the man that made the trade all happen for Kobe Bryant, Vlade Divac. See, he was on the Lakers and he didn't want to quite come to Charlotte from LA, but eventually he made it happen. Then there's me, the wide-eyed 19-year-old kid out of Kansas. And they didn't televise our preseason games, so all I got for y'all is these Polaroid pictures, but just know I balled out and earned my spot in the starting lineup for opening night game. Opening night here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and our opponent still be the New Jersey Nets. Not really a great team, but I can't underestimate anybody as this is my first NBA game. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to be starting at the 2-guard position, right next to Muggsy. My matchup for the night was going to be none other than Jim Jackson, the dynamic scorer who just got traded from the Dallas Mavericks. And for me, I was really excited to be here at first. And in the offense, we had Glenn Rice taking all the shots, getting all the buckets, so I didn't have to worry too much initially. What I did have to worry about was on defense as Jim Jackson got straight to it. Hey, there was rumors that him and Jason Kidd had a rift, that's why the Dallas Mavericks traded him. So he looked to be taking out a lot of frustration on me early on. So I had to wake up and realize this is the league and there's levels to this. But I quickly realized after looking over at Jim that my advantage comes from my height. See, I'm 6'7". I really shouldn't be playing the 2-guard position, but we got a team full of height. Speaking of which, this man Glenn Rice was hitting the same moves every time down the court, pick and pop. And for Muggsy, hey, I told y'all, this man plays as hard as anybody in the league, and you wouldn't tell that he's 5'3" the way he elevates off the ground. So for me, I had to get my spots and figure out what I was going to do to impact this offense positively. Initially, that was coming off curls, but I didn't trust my jump shot at first, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. And Del Curry, I could hear him all the way over here. He was yelling at me like, "Rook, shoot it." See, Del was the best shooter in the NBA in my opinion, and he was used to coming off curls and letting it fly. See, that's not my game. But I found myself on the bench quickly. But it's one thing Muggsy told me while I was on the bench. He said, "Rook, you gotta trust that shot, or you gotta trust that you'll make the right decision." So I came back in the game and immediately made an impact, as I got a block on the big fella down low. And in transition, they found me off a curl. And as I was coming off the screen, I just let it fly and got it. For my first NBA bucket, it's a mid-range jumper. I was known as a high flyer in college. I was known as the guy that had a lot of handle as well. But nobody really knew me for my jumper. And I felt like I'm here to prove everybody wrong. So I pulled up for another shot off of isolation and got it to go again. And to be honest, I know I'm hyping myself up. My shot looks a little cleaner than I give it credit for. I know I said it was ugly before, but shoot, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, ain't it? Later on, came off yet another curl. My confidence was at an all-time high. Maybe a little too high. But hey, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. On the next possession, I found myself in the corner once again. Without hesitation this time, I pulled a corner 3 and nailed it. And in the first half alone, we were destroying the New Jersey Nets. And I quickly realized, hey, my place in the league is what I make it. I can't put myself in a box. I'm a 6'7", borderline 6'8" shooting guard in 1996. I got a chance to be special. And with my handle, I felt unguardable at times. Right here at the end of the second half, I had Jim Jackson on me. My confidence was peaking so high that I took off. And I was getting ready to put J. Will on a poster. Then I came down, missed the dunk, and I thought I got fouled, but they called a charge. Much to my displeasure, I had to run down the court in frustration. I had a moment where I was going to put J. Will on the front of a newspaper. It's safe to say that the coaching staff decided to take me out at the end of the first half to give me a breather. And if you're a Nets fan, I'm sorry to say this, but we were putting the belt to these boys. As in the second half, I went for an and one dunk to put icing on the cake. As I was headed to the free throw line, I had a moment to embrace the crowd. That winning on the college level was extremely fun, but winning the game on the NBA level, in front of a home crowd, for a city, is unmatched. And at this point in the game, I'm in double-figure scoring, and I figured why not show off my passing ability. And so I thought I lost the ball in this possession, found my big man Glenn Rice for the pick and pop mid-range jumper. At this point, I was filling up the stat sheet. I already had the points, I had some boards, and I was starting to dish the rock a little bit. And to put a cherry on top of this game, I pulled up for a mid-range jumper off a pick and roll from Vlade. And I found something that worked. Pick and roll game. See, being a rook, the defenders are going to automatically rotate to the big. So I had to just trust my jump shot. And in game one, I definitely did, as I dropped 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists to make my impact and imprint on the city and on the league. Not only did we blow out the New Jersey Nets, I also made the front cover of the city newspaper. And while I shined at home, it's time for me to really go back home. Just over a year after leaving home for college, I'm coming right back home to play my first NBA game in front of my people. So the team let me fly home a day early, so I got a chance to go back home, see my mom and pops. And that was great. And to make it even better, I found out they threw a surprise cookout for me to welcome me back home. And I was able to give some people tickets, but a lot of them already said they was coming to the game regardless. So I had one job and one mission: to beat the Detroit Pistons, the Palace Auburn Hills, and my homecoming. And for the team, we were already 1-0. We had a lot of confidence. This is the Pistons we talking about. Now this ain't the Pistons of the bad boys in the late 80s and the early 90s. It's kind of a new look Pistons. Out in it. But tonight, we taking no prisoners. As Anthony Mason came out aggressive and playing bully ball. And early on, we thought we was going to bring the bad boys to the Pistons. That didn't work all the way quite. As out in transition, the Pistons had one job: attack the basket and get jumpers up. Shout out to Muggsy, but my man was just too small for Joe Dumars. But regardless, Muggsy wasn't the problem. It was number 33 in white. This man G Hill was coming off curls, off the dribble. It didn't matter who was on him, including me, as he was serving out jumpers to the whole team. And I gotta be honest, it was starting to get ugly in that first quarter. It was like this man was doing everything, coming off screens, curls, off his own dribble. It didn't matter who was on him, and I found myself on the bench quickly. And that wasn't even my matchup. But I just had to sit there and watch this man continue to torch our defense. They would set the screen, and there'll just be nobody there waiting on him every single time. And he had that mid-range on lock. This is not what I was expecting coming back home, nor what I wanted either. But I just had to keep my patience sitting on the bench, and I knew when I got back in the game, I was shutting all that down and getting my own buckets. So later on, I did check back into the game. Did that stop the Grant Hill show? Absolutely not. The Pistons were walking all over us. I mean, literally getting to any spot they wanted to. And I finally showed some backbone as I sent Grant Hill's shot out of bounds. And as soon as they got the ball right back, he came right back to me like, "Rook, this ain't what you think." And I have to admit, in that very moment, that was the rare time where I really felt the dude was just better than anybody on the court. And to top it all off, at the end of the first half, this man 33 rose up and threw it down in the transition. So he's dunking like that too? Oof. It's gonna be a long night for us. So all I could do was inbound the ball, try to get any momentum for our team. The timeouts, I was hearing coach. I wasn't hearing coach. I needed something, because my jump shot was off this game. And my jump shot off, I had to establish myself on the defensive end and do something so I could stay out on the court. I know they say if you don't succeed, try again. But what if you try again and that don't work? Well, for me, I figured it was the passing game. Maybe I need to let off the jumper and focus on moving the ball, which I did. And in the second half, we finally got a little spark as the ball was moving a lot more. This is one of the rare times I got a chance to play with Dell Curry on the court. When we got him open, we knew it was lights out. But with this three right here in the fourth quarter, he cut the lead down to single digits, and the momentum was moving. For the first time all night, I found my jump shot, and I helped cut the lead down to about 6. The big man screens on our team find me open every single time. It's just a make or miss league at this point. And we cut the lead down to 6, and Detroit had to call a timeout to figure out the momentum and stop ours. And it worked. It's not too long after, they found themselves back up by 14, and I was going to the lane getting hacked, fouled, pushed, prodded, and no fouls. And then put the icing on the cake. This man G Hill rose up and dunked all over Glenn Rice's scalp. Put the game out of reach with about a minute left. While he didn't have a lights out shooting performance, G Hill definitely showed us that there's levels to this. While I didn't have a high scoring performance at all, I did finish the game with 4 blocks and 8 rebounds. And while it wasn't pretty, shoot, it's the way I play. We had a game back at home against the Atlanta Hawks, who were one of the worst teams in the NBA after Dominique Wilkins left. So for us, this was a chance to get our chemistry together and get some momentum going forward as we start to play the harder teams in the East Coast. And for me, of course, it's yet another game where I'm starting and getting a chance to put my feet even further into the ground and the foundation of the NBA soil. Out the gate in this game, I had my feet all the way up in the air, so I rose up for a one-handed flush in transition, and the crowd instantly got into the game. And I could hear my own special chants going on too, but that's besides the point. So I wanted to focus on getting better and doing things my way in this game, which meant attacking the basket when I got the opportunity to, and not being passive. See, naturally as a rookie, you're afraid you don't want to take the bad shot and get sent to the bench. But I reminded myself, I might be a walking mismatch on this court. I mean, who else has my kind of frame and size and abilities? I may not be the greatest shooter right now, but it works. I may not have the best handle, but I can sure get to the basket like nobody else, in my opinion, humbly. So I dunked all over the Atlanta Hawks and swung on the rim. And listen, as the game progressed, I was making my imprint all over the court. It wasn't just offense either. I was making my imprint on defense and rebounding, and I even had this thing where I would go coast to coast. And if I wasn't dunking it, I was getting an assist and an easy dime to my teammates. This man Steve Smith thought it was sweet down here. He tried to hit his patented Smitty, and I wasn't falling for it. He tried to run through me, I wasn't moving. And not only did I grab the rebound, I took it all the way down court and found Glenn Rice once again for the and-one flush with 2 hands for safety. And I'm talking about my mans was mean mugging and beating his chest and all. And I think we found something. This game wasn't the prettiest by far. We did not beat the Atlanta Hawks by double digits. But that transition attack between us is unstoppable if you ask me. I look up and I end up finishing with my first career double-double, not to mention 5 assists. And once again, I'm on the front of the Charlotte Daily newspaper. While I accidentally spilled coffee on it, the title said, "Where there's a will, there's a way." Well, it's November still in 1996, and we found our way to New York City. This is a big time, prime time game early on in the season for a number of reasons. But it's going to be my first game in New York at the Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball. See, the Knicks were just in the finals in 1994 where they lost to the Houston Rockets. But while it's not the exact same team, most of the guys still remain, including some new additions. So they look to be a threat once again. For us, it's a chance to be a measuring stick to see where we match up in the East. At the point guard position, they acquired Chris Childs, number 1. Hey, he wasn't too dynamic, but he got just enough done to be the starter. At the guard position, they had H2O, Allen Houston. And this season, they got Larry Johnson for Anthony Mason, who's on our team now. And for Larry, shoot, he developed the outside shot and has become dangerous. And he looks to add to this New York Knicks team. But the foundation pieces are definitely with John Starks, and number 33 down low, Patrick Ewing, as these two are the faces of New York Knicks basketball. Everywhere you go in the city, it's them. And early on, it was all of them, as we couldn't find the rhythm, all out of whack. And then the transition, shoot, it was like Muggsy might as well not even be there, as Chris took it to the basket and laid it in. But just like any good team, eventually you find the rhythm. It just may take a couple shots. Just ask Glenn Rice, as he finally found his stroke. Down low, Vladdy was having his hands full with the Georgetown legend. Patrick Ewing was cooking and dominating. But for me, my first bucket came off a screen and curl, so I pulled up for 3 and nailed it. For my first jumper, the bucket, the garden. And I hope the photographer took that picture, so I want that later. For now, I had to lock in and focus on the game at hand, as John Starks and company thought they had it easy. And for a little while, it seemed like they did, but not till I started playing defense in the paint. See, I would lock up, grab the rebound, and just like I did last game, push that pace as I found Glenn Rice attacking the basket in transition. And early on in this game, coach was starting to let me handle the rock more. Dare I say, even run point. And right here, I get A. Mace to set the screen and I attack the basket. I see Larry Johnson not contested and I rise up with both hands and feet in the air and slam it home. Not only that, I came down gracefully with a ballerina spin and a bow to the crowd. Dramatics to the side, we found something that worked. It's the pick and roll action at the top of the key. Whether it was me attacking the basket or finding my shooters like A. Mace or Glenn Rice, we found it. We just had to keep working with it. In the beginning of this game in the first half, it seemed all too sweet. Well-oiled machine. But as soon as we put Muggsy back in the run point, I feel like I lost a lot of my power, so my focus is shift on defense. Well, I thought I locked up Larry Johnson, but that didn't work. My man hit a behind the backboard shot. Before you knew it, the Knicks took a 7-point lead in the halftime. We thought we would come out and stop momentum. Wrong. Chris Childs had the crowd lit. Spike Lee on the side, I could hear him yelling. And for us, we couldn't buy a layup to go. I'm talking about Vlade Divac was pretty much useless in the paint, respectfully. And as for me, it feels like I lost my jumper somewhere in the second half, as none of my buckets fell like it did in the first. And the Knicks just kept pounding the paint, pounding and pounding. We had no answer. The captain, Larry Johnson, dunked it all over Ricky Pierce. In the timeout, the Knicks had a 16-point lead in the beginning of the fourth quarter. And here's again, it was my job to somehow get the momentum back for this squad. So I just attacked the basket, which is my bread and butter at this point. And for a minute, I thought we had it rolling. So I found Del Curry for the spot up off the curl. Boom, another stop, I get the board, and in transition with my left hand only, I'm flying, I see an opening. You could have sworn I was prime Dominique. So I went up with the cradle and slammed it home in style. I went up like I was in a dunk contest. But nah, this is me. In style. In game. 24/7. I mean, shoot, why not? I want to bring that kind of flair to every game I go in. Even Charles Oakley had to take a second after that dunk to realize what he just saw. He's the enforcer. But unlike the dunk contest, you don't get extra points for being flashy. You still got to compete out here. And that's just something we did not do. As I realized my teammates hit the max. They couldn't hit another jump shot to save their lives. And then it hit me. I realized, even though I'm a rookie, I'm going to have a huge impact on this team if we want to even be successful this year. There's no point in waiting around and trying to develop and be cute. I got to give them all every night. The Knicks will almost beat us by 20 in front of everybody in an embarrassing fashion. And I had mixed feelings. I had one of my best nights yet. There was a guy at our position doing it way better. And this guy, this was some are already calling the greatest player to ever touch a basketball. See, Michael Jordan was all over every commercial, every TV screen, and every broadcast. And he was getting buckets on every team too. And at this point, he's already won his 4th chip. But back in '91, I had to witness him take down my Detroit Pistons in a sweep, finally beating Isaiah Thomas, basically sending him off into retirement. And it always left a sour taste in my mouth as a teenager. See, everybody wanted to be like Mike, but not me. I wanted to be the guy that took down Mike. And I always dreamed that one day, maybe I'll have my chance in the NBA to take down Mike myself. And well, here at the beginning of the 1996 season, it seemed like that day has arrived. It's November 1996, and we, the Charlotte Hornets, are playing host to the NBA champions, Chicago Bulls. And tonight, the lineups were looking a little different. So the Bulls were going to be without Dennis Rodman tonight, their dynamic rebounder. And us, well, we were going to be without Anthony Mason. So it's going to be an interesting battle. But there's going to be the two guys that are never going away. And that one of them, Scottie Pippen, who's going to be my matchup tonight. And obviously we all know the other, with 23. And that matchup is going to Del Curry tonight. And while we were a little nervous about it, we really have too much of a choice. And my objective was getting over the physicality of Scottie, which was hard early on, but thankfully we had big Glenn Rice holding down for us on offense. And on defense, I applied pressure to Scottie, got the rebound, and do what I do best, get out in transition. But this transition a little different. See, Mike ripped me, and in his transition, he pulled up for a mid-range jumper and buried it to set the tone until the crowd piped down. See, Mike's thing was to destroy your confidence as an opponent. Anybody that thought they were good, he sought them out to let them know they not. And that included Del Curry, as it was obvious early on in this matchup that Del couldn't light a candle or guard him at all, as he got in foul trouble, but there's really nothing we could do about it. On offense, much to my surprise, I got Michael Jordan to foul me on a 3-point shot early on in the game. My foot may have been on the line, but regardless, I hit the ground, sold the foul, and got right back on up. Cause I ain't want Mike to think he even touched me that hard. So I ain't feel it at all, honestly. I focused on hitting my 3 free throws. My confidence, shoot, it was even killed at this point. And I could feel Mike behind me, breathing extra hard and chewing his gum extra loud, trying to intimidate me. That's something that Del Curry got to worry about, not me. My focus is on hitting all these free throws and make sure I lock up on defense so I can stay out here in the court. See, in the back of my head, I wanted to guard Mike, because watching Del get cooked just irritated me bad. Thankfully on offense, nobody could light a candle to Glenn Rice either. And for me, I came off another double screen. This time I was wide open and hit the 3. And that sent the Bulls into a timeout. And I was rolling, so was the team. But of course, the coaching staff decided to take me out to get some rest. And it was at that moment where I had to be a witness, front row, to the show. See, Mike, he knew nobody on our bench could guard him either. That's why I wanted to be out there. But he decided to take his time on offense, get into isolation, and hit his patented post fadeaway from the mid-range. And in transition, he could blow by anybody. Minute by minute, you could slowly feel him start to gain even more momentum. It didn't take much for him at all. And as I was standing at the scores table, I had to bear witness to him just cooking us, talking about mid-range galore. And I had my hand on my hip just itching and waiting to get back in the game. In my head, I'm already seeing myself lock him down and lock him up. Hey, if you play ball, you already know what that feels like. In your head, you're doing everything right. It's looking easy. Then, you gotta actually step between the lines and make it happen. And in the second quarter, I had to guard Mike. Mike had to guard me too, but that's just not how he saw it. See, he saw me and thought it was Butterfingers, sweet, and tried to go for the mid-range shot over me, and it didn't work at first. So with that, I got out in transition and got an easy layup. See, he wasn't gonna be all that. I told y'all this in my head already. So this time, he takes his time a little bit more, gets better position, and does rise up and hit the shot over me. But once again, I can't turn this into a one-on-one matchup. That's how you look up and lose the game. But it was hard not to, because it seemed like every time down the court, Mike knew I was a rookie and he tried to embarrass me. And right here, he blew right past me and dunked it all over my man's Anthony Mason, who wasn't starting because he was dealing with injury and I already felt bad. So I let Mike go right to him. Sure enough, that probably was sending Anthony back to the bench. And all I could be was frustrated. As we headed into the third quarter and played most of it, the frustrations grew a little bit stronger as the Bulls would take a noticeable lead on us going into the fourth. But I knew I had to step up for my team if we wanted to win. No ifs, ands, or buts. So right here at the beginning of the fourth quarter, I set the tone. Now, Scotty locked me up on his three-point shot that I was trying to take. I got my man's Glenn Rice to set me a screen, and then Scotty was still there. I had to make a decision, either pass it or go right through Scotty's chest. And I chose the latter. And as the fourth quarter progressed, Mike came back into the game. Everybody knew it was 23 time. This is where he shines and just completely destroys the team. But early on, he started missing. Around the 4-minute mark, we had a window of opportunity, as we were only down about 6 points. So I found myself attacking the basket and becoming a facilitator. So I fell out getting Rice. The next possession, you just know Mike was going to come back and hit another shot, but it takes a village. As we helped, got the stop on Mike, and on offense, my man Glenn Rice attacked the basket and finished it, cut the lead down to 2. So with about a minute and some change left, Mike fades from almost the 3-point line, finally buries a jumper over Dell Curry. And while it seemed like a mismatch early on, I got to give Dell some credit. He was trying his hardest, but there's nothing you can do about that. So with a 4-point game on the line, we had to figure out a way to come right back. So about a little over a minute left, we run the perfect play to get Vadi wide open for a dunk and an and one. In the 2-point game, Vadi hits a free throw, cut it to 1. With a minute and 40 left, and while Vadi was having a terrible night, all we needed for him to do was hit a free throw, which he did. And on defense, once again, Dell Curry plays outstanding defense and we get the stop. And out in transition, Glenn Rice has the ball, and I guess Muggsy Bogues really thought he was 6'3", because he went up for a terrible layup. Got it blocked, but did get the ball right back. With only about 13 left on the shot clock, we were in scramble mode as no play was being ran. Now the ball's in my hands to make a play. And I look up, it's only 3 seconds on the shot clock. And I panned and passed it to Vladi, who I knew wasn't hitting the shot. So the Bulls got the ball right back. A little time on the clock. Seemed like they rushed things a little bit. Thankfully for them, we had to foul Scotty. Scotty was having a rough night, primarily thanks to me because I was guarding him most of the time, but all he had to do was knock down these 2 free throws and give the Bulls a 3-point lead with less than a minute left. And as the first free throw went up, much to everybody's surprise, it was off, especially Scotty's. And while I was there at the free throw line enjoying that, I have to admit I was tired. This was my first big prime time, close time game. Scotty would knock down a second free throw to get him a 2-point lead, but on the next possession, we had nothing going for us. And once again, I had to throw up a terrible late shot, and a shot clock violation happened. And in the 2-point game, we blew a possession. And that seemed like it was about to be all she wrote. And for me, I couldn't help but think, wow, what kind of execution was that? See, now the ball is in number 23's hands with a 2-point game and a chance to take us out the game completely. And all we had to rely on was Dell Curry on an island by himself. I wanted to help, but I couldn't. With everybody holding their breath as the shot clock winded down, Mike would spin, pull, and miss. And Muggsy would secure the rebound with 10 seconds left exactly and call a timeout. And much to everybody's surprise, coach would draw up a play where I would have the ball off the inbound. And he said, "Rook, I want you to wait on the screen from Glenn Rice and run the pick and pop." So, off the inbound, I got positioned on Scotty and called for the ball. And I knew Scotty was all world defensively, so I couldn't play around with it. But instead of Glenn Rice coming, this man Vlade Divac would come set the screen, which didn't make it work. So with only 5 seconds left on the clock, I had to improvise. And initially I was going left, but I decided to go right and fade. And with my feet inside the arc, I pulled a game-tying shot, closed my eyes, and all I could do is pray the ball would go in the basket. And it did. The biggest shot of my life. And just like that, we got a tied game at 79 all. The crowd erupted. My excitement was through my flat top, but I had to quickly calm down as we had to go into a timeout and realize there was still 0.6 on the clock. But take a second to hear the crowd in this arena, because I can't describe it. .6. The Bulls went in down the ball, and everybody in the arena knew who the ball was going to. With one chance, one heave. The ball found Mike, and the shot went up. Man, it seemed like the ball was in the air for an eternity. When it came down, all net. Just like Mike, huh? Only good news that came out of this is, well, the ball wasn't out of his hands in time. And just like that, we went from heartbreak to 5 more minutes of basketball. You know what that means. In overtime, I decided I would not waste time. Out the gate, I got the ball in my hands and got to my spot and took a mid-range jumper over Scottie Pippen. And it bounced around a little bit, but it was cash. Just like that, we went up 2 early on. And while there was no scoring going on for a while, this jump ball right here would ignite the fuel again. And who else? Me and Mike. Toe to toe, mano y mano. And Mike was telling me to back off. Never. I don't care if I'm 20 years old or not. I'm going to fight for it. And on the jump ball, I ain't going to lie to y'all. Mike won it. The Bulls didn't do anything with it. And later on in overtime, our offense found our rhythm. I'm talking about Muggsy and Glenn Rice getting it going. And just like that, we had a big lead over the Bulls in overtime, but in championship fashion, they fought back. After this Ron Harper floater, it was a 1-possession game with about 7 seconds. And we just had to make sure we got the ball in clean so we can get fouled. Nada. Scottie Pippen stole the ball off the inbound, and in transition, Ron Harper pulled up a mid-range shot on my late contest to take the lead with 1 second. Nah, not on our watch. And just like that, we beat the Chicago Bulls, yes, the reigning champions, by 1 point at home. And the whole city of Charlotte seemed like they were at this game and hype after the win. So was I. And after beating the champions in the first matchup of the season, I made the newspaper stepping past Michael Jordan. And while we know how that play went, it was still symbolic. Stand down, Mike. It's a new kid in town. I kid you not. After the win against the Chicago Bulls, our confidence was through the roof. As a team and myself. I'm talking about I put the league on notice that I'm here. I wasn't drafted in the top 10 as a rookie. I get that. But that's why the regular season was made. To make doubters into believers. And believe me, it seemed like every city we were going into, we were taking notice. I'm talking about putting on shows. I mean, I was the high-flying, acrobatic young rookie. Then you had Glenn Rice, the automatic 25-point per game scorer. Not to mention, you got Muggsy Bogues, who was about 5'3", and then we got shooters like Del Curry off the bench making things happen. And in the East, shoot, it didn't take long for us to get rolling and find our way near the top of the conference in the standings. And as far as the Rookie of the Year race, well, I'm gonna be honest. That man Allen Iverson was having a heck of a season to start off. But outside of him, I dare you to find me a rookie that's playing better than me at this moment. I'm talking about every time I go out there, I'm getting to my spots, flying over the competition, styling and profiling. Whether at home or on the road, it seems like I'm getting the attention of everybody now. I mean, hey, it's easy to attract attention when every night you flying through the lane and coming down so hard with the dunk, you just feel like I got a family to feed. And I got so flashy and fresh that they started giving me a new nickname, the Fresh Prince of Charlotte. See, around this time, there was a show called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air out, starring Will Smith, that had everybody's attention. And see, Will's charisma and flashiness made him a likable character. Well, you can say the same about me. So Charlotte pushed this campaign out as a rookie, and I had posters all over the city, downtown, barbershops, everywhere you can go, you saw me. But that didn't stop my game at all. See, I was focused and determined. And one of my favorite dunks of the season was flying over Karl Malone and postering it on him. And we went on the road and took down the Utah Jazz to finish up our West Coast road trip. And I knew we had a rolling at that point. And as the month of December comes to a close, and we push forward to the year of 1997, there was only one matchup at the end of this month that mattered the most, a rematch.
My next number, I'd like to return to the classics.
For the first time in a regular season and in our NBA careers, I was facing against Allen Iverson. And we've kind of came back down to earth a little bit. Ever since we came back from the West Coast road trip, we lost our last 3 games. But at the end of the calendar year of 1996, this was the matchup I had circled on the calendar. Me and AI, NBA edition. And as for the 76ers, yeah, they were struggling. There was a reason why they had the #1 pick. But as for AI, well, he wasted no time and already emerging as one of the best guards in the NBA. So it was my duty to make my name and presence felt in his city, in his arena. And as I matched up with him on defense right here, he was hitting me with every dribble move possible, and I thought I defended it perfectly. Just like every other defender that had to come across him, it didn't matter. You can ask Michael Jordan about that, but we'll get into that another day. As for right now, in this game in particular, it was me and him. And he was getting open, so was I. The problem I faced was that I wasn't the main focal point of our offense. See, I had to get it out the mud, but for AI, the ball was always in his hands. Speaking of which, I saw this man fly down the lane wide open, uncontested, and throw it down with amazing hops. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, part of me got a little jealous. So on this next drive, he thought he was gonna get past me. I fouled him hard, and I told him about it. But he got up in my face, shorter than me. I'm talking about chest to chest, bumping me out the way. It was at that moment I knew this beef would never die down. I'm talking about this might be going on for the next 15 years. But guess who's gonna be here for it? Me. Yeah, he was barking in my face at his crib with the crowd in my ear too. And they had a lead. And I ain't gonna lie, he was having a great night as well. But if you think I'm gonna back down just because of a little bark, you must not know I'm a dog too. And I bite. And just like that, towards the end of the game, we found our way back in the lead. And with Derek Coleman at the free throw line, all he had to do was make one free throw to tie the game up. And he did. So at about 10 seconds left, the game was tied. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, the play went terribly wrong and the game went in OT. But it was in overtime where I immediately tacked the basket and got an N1 over AI. And I celebrated a little bit, but I'm gonna be honest with y'all, the boy was tired. I didn't have the greatest shooting night at all. Matter of fact, I only had 10 points and 1 assist at this time. But all that mattered was that I had the chance to put my team up 3 in OT in a pivotal game. And that I did. And we will eventually come out with the win. I mean, look, there's a reason why the Sixers were 9-16. They just couldn't keep up with us towards the end of overtime. And I didn't even do much this game. Matter of fact, you could definitely say I got outplayed by AI. And while this definitely won't help my Rookie of the Year campaign, shoot, at least I'm a starting rookie. That's more than some guys could say out west. Hey, we traveled back out to Los Angeles to face the one and only, the Lakers, in the Forum. And normally this would be a huge matchup, Shaq, but he was hurt. So it was just me against Eddie Jones this matchup, with Kobe on the bench. By this point, Kobe and the coaching staff had been at a rift. Not to mention, the newly acquired Shaquille O'Neal and the blockbuster offseason signing had been hurt. So while the Lakers were having some success, it didn't matter when we rolled into town. We had to face Shaq, which meant Glenn Rice was going off. I mean, Shaq was one of the best players in the NBA at this point, from his time in Orlando. So him being out was huge for us. So we went into LA and took care of business. And while I want to rag on Kobe sometimes because of the trade, he balled out off the bench. I'm talking about buckets galore. He's somebody to watch out for after All-Star break. Speaking of All-Star break, I made it to All-Star weekend with an invite to one of the best events of the weekend. Yeah, I got invited to the NBA dunk contest of 1997 as a rookie. And a lot of people felt like I might be the favorite to win with the flashiness I possess and my in-game dunks. It was me, Cedric Ceballos, Harold Miner, John Starks, compete for the #1 spot. And to be honest, I didn't really have much time to practice any dunks. And after missing my first dunk attempt, I came out with this. It wasn't really over the top flashy, and it was honestly something I could have probably done in game. Matter of fact, it's probably something I have done in game now that I think about it. Regardless, I just wanted to put something on the scoreboard. I was really grateful for the opportunity to perform in front of the fans watching, the crowd, and at home. And I got a 33 for my first dunk. And on the second go round, I did the same dunk in reverse. Lack of creativity got me, I ain't gonna lie. Dunks are clean. Not clean enough to get a high score. But you can call me a hater. But this is the winning dunk from Cedric Ceballos that made him take home the trophy. And I feel like I could have did that with my eyes closed. But the crowd erupted, and he would take home the dunk contest trophy for 1997. I decided to shake my head, shake his hand, and just be happy to be there. The one thing that definitely put him over the top was the fact that he didn't miss any opportunities or any dunks, and he got it right on the first try, which gave him a 40. So congrats to him. Coming out the All-Star break, we had one thing in our minds, making the playoffs. Seemed like every game mattered. And out the All-Star break, we had a nice rhythm going. We were going against some of the NBA's best, like David Robinson of the Spurs. And in those matchups, sometimes I'll find myself having to guard people like him, which was painful. But in rematches like against the Sixers, we found our footing and continued to put the pedal to the metal. And I had much better games after the All-Star break, averaging way better numbers. One time we went to Philadelphia again. We put the beating on Philadelphia 76ers in AI in their crib, and I had a monster performance. So much so that people were revisiting that Rookie of the Year race. Now AI clearly had an advantage at the start of the season, but the way I was playing in the second half had people maybe scratching their heads a little bit. Recount the vote, stop the polls. Nah, but listen, I just wanted to do whatever I could to impact the city of Charlotte and make my presence known that I'm here to stay. Not only that, y'all can rely on number 25 in blue come playoff time. See, we would end up securing the 6th seed in the NBA playoffs in 1997, pitting us against our rivals. But before that, there was a decision announced that kind of left my heart broken a little bit.
The 1997 NBA Rookie of the Year, Allen Iverson.
Make sure I got something for him.
The 1997 NBA playoffs arrived. Well, I didn't win Rookie of the Year at all. The one thing I had over AI was I was having a chance to compete for an NBA championship. And I was assigned the role of playing point guard due to an injury to Muggsy Bogues toward the end of the season. While Muggsy was short in stature, that was a huge loss for us. And in a matchup like this, we need everybody on deck, especially when you consider that we're going against Tim Hardaway, one of the most elite ball handlers and scorers in the NBA. For the most part, that was going to be one of my assignments. Not to mention Don Marley and Alonzo Mourning down in the paint. See, Alonzo was a Charlotte Hornet once upon a time, but the times have come and gone. Now it's serious business. Miami Heat were a good team, obviously. They were the number 3 seed in the East, so we had a lot of business to take care of. And out the gate in Miami, they got to it. So did we. I got straight to the basket with Tim Hardaway and noticed a size mismatch. But outside of that, wasn't really much mismatches in our favor. The Heat had players at every position that can get to it. It's like they were built similar to us, but kind of better to us at most of the positions. With Muggsy on the sidelines in agony watching us take game 1 to the chin, there was no timetable for his return. So it was up to me to figure it out. But in game 1, that just wasn't happening. As Tim Hardaway was in his bag. I'm talking about mid-range handles, everything on display. Miami Heat would take game 1 of the series. And you must remember, the first round, series goes to 5. First one to win 3 moves on. So we didn't really have much room to waste. So game 2 in Miami, I told myself, I gotta leave everything on the table, or else it's curtains. So in game 2, I came out blocking, defending, and getting out in transition like I usually do. And slamming it right over Don Marley, setting the tone for the game. Out on the break, getting right to it, making everybody proud back in Charlotte. See, if we tied this up at 1 apiece, with 2 games at home, who knows how this could go. That was my mentality. So I got buckets, I got dimes, and I ran the show. Showing the coaching staff that they might have to consider me as a point guard going forward. Yeah, I'm 6'8", but who cares? I can handle the rock, make the right reads, and score the ball. Let's scratch all that. Game's still close. About 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter, so I need to tighten up. With about 2.5 minutes left, the ball was still in my hands to make the right decisions. With Don Marley on me, I decided I would fade for an inside the arc 2-pointer. to give our team an extended lead. Buried it. That shot would put us up 2 possessions and all but seal the victory for us on the road. Just like that, we would tie the series up at 1 apiece. 1-1, headed back to the Queen City, Charlotte. In the moment, I felt like the man. I was pointing to all the Charlotte fans out there, the Miami crowd, let them know we got one. See you back at home. As we headed back to Charlotte, there was only one thing on our mind. Win game 3 and take control of the series. We got 2 games at home to close the series out. And with a team like the Heat, you don't want to play around with it. If you got it, seal it. If not, they'll take it. So out the gate, with Jamal Mashburn on me, I did a crazy behind the back pass to Glenn Rice. I'm talking about a no look. And Glenn Rice, who was always automatic, so my highlight assist. And that seemed like that set the tone for the game early on, as the Heat were taking it to us in the paint. But thanks to Glenn Rice, we were fighting back. Look, outside of that missed 3, he was getting anything he wanted. Attacking the basket, easy. Wide open on the curl, bucket. He was the reason why we were keeping pace with the Miami Heat, because if it was up to me, well, needless to say, I was off. Speaking of which, this man, Alonzo Mourning, got the offensive rebound and pounded it right over me. I was down there trying to help out and caught a poster. And I didn't know what to think of doing that moment. Seeing that big, massive human being swinging over the rim in front of my face kind of irked me a little bit. So on the next possession, I attacked the basket myself. Got a layup, no and one, just simple. And I played defense too. How about that? So after getting the block, Dirk Curry is out in transition, and on the fast break with about a minute left in the game, we just need a bucket, and none of us could look to the basket and get it to go. I'm talking about I even missed the layup, and I got the offensive rebound back, and we found Dell Curry open for the wide open 3, and he braked it. With less than 30 seconds left in the game, the Miami Heat found themselves in a position to go up 2-1 on the series. And after this transition bucket from Don Murley, the Miami Heat will bounce back in Charlotte, take a game 3 victory to go up 2-1 on the series. Remember, it's the first one to win 3. So game 4 was oh so important. I'm talking about everything was on the line. And while it may be my rookie year, you never want to wash opportunities away when you feel like you got it right there. And don't get me wrong, the Miami Heat were obviously a good team. But unless we were losing to the Chicago Bulls, we felt like we shouldn't be losing to anybody in the East with the talent we got. So out the gate, in game 4, everything was on a stream. Ball movement was crispy, player movement, and I even got to the rim like I usually do. There's no way we're going to let the Miami Heat take both games in Charlotte and our home court. If I had to point to one thing that was killing us, was the fact that we couldn't secure rebounds. That man Vlade Divac was getting bullied by Alonzo Mourning in the paint, on offense and defense. It wasn't just Vlade, it was everybody involved. It took all hands on deck to stop this man, and even that didn't work. The Miami Heat will make this a game once again in the 4th quarter, as they would come back gliding and sliding in transition. Before you know it, the game was completely tied at 112 apiece with about 3.5 minutes left. And my man Glenn Rice was having a monster performance this game. So was Alonzo. But right here off the miss, I get the transition rebound, push it up to Del Curry, and this man must have forgot he was old. He tried to dunk it over Don Marley. Thankfully, he got the blocking call. And after hitting his free throws, Glenn Rice will put us up by another 2 points. And the crowd erupted.
Rice has got 16 points here in the second half.
That man was balling out in the 4th quarter. But you know who else was? Tim Hardaway. As the 3 would give him a 1-point lead with about a minute and some change left. On the next offensive possession for us, we will find Del Curry wide open and he misses it. So in a 1-point game, it was my duty to stop Tim Hardaway from getting a bucket. And I did just that. So about 35 seconds left, we got the ball back in transition. And Del Curry decided to slow it down and make sure we made this possession count. It was only a 1-point game. The ball was in my hands, but the series on the line. Down 1, I had to make this one count. But then it clicked in me. I had Tim Hardaway on me, so no matter what shot I took, I had an advantage. So I rose up from the mid-range, faded away a little bit, and buried it. Just like that, I gave the Charlotte Hornets a 1-point lead with 12 seconds left. Miami Heat had to call a timeout to get the play right. Regardless of what happens in the next 12 seconds, I just hit the biggest shot of my career, in my life. Gave the Charlotte fans hope.
Need a good play drawn up. A chance to take the lead, drawing up a play to make it happen.
Miami Heat would inbound the ball with 12 seconds left. It seemed like they were going to take the last shot, miss a mate. My job was to stay on Tim Hardaway 23-1 lockdown. With 5 seconds left, the ball was getting passed around, and just when I backed off of Tim Hardaway, the ball swung to him. With about 2 seconds left, he let it go. With the ball in the air, all that was on my mind was that it was off, confidently. I may have contested late, but I felt like I impacted his vision. The ball is out of my hands. Game. Tim called it. And just like that, our season is over. Everybody in the arena was in disbelief. Shocked. And as for me, I was just a man about a minute ago. The hero. Now I'm zero. That quick. I was so distraught. I was arguing with a teammate, and it was clearly my fault. And I realized it. See, I backed away from Tim Hardaway at the last second. Huge mistake. There was still time on the clock. I should have never took my foot off the gas pedal. And while it hurt, the Miami Heat would celebrate on our home court as they advanced to the second round. And as for me, my rookie season has come to a close. And while it didn't end in a great fashion, through all the ups and the downs, I can still walk off the court and lead the season with my head held high. As a rookie, I was able to lead my team in a couple of statistical categories, not to mention being able to make the dunk contest and the playoffs. The future's only bright from here, and the lights will be even brighter. But that's something I'm ready for, whether that's in Charlotte or anywhere else I go. Year 8. Yeah, I know. I fast forwarded through a lot of my Charlotte career, but just know, I was averaging over 20 points a game, became one of the well-known faces in the NBA. But in the year of 2003, in the summer, Charlotte decided it was best that I move on to a new team, as they would focus attention on Baron Davis only. So I decided to join the Chicago Bulls, yes, a team that I hated growing up, being from Detroit. But what can I say? They offered me the most money of any team out there in free agency, so I obliged. And becoming a star myself, I'll be faced up against some of the biggest stars across the league every night, one of which was a familiar face. Yeah, that's Paul Pierce, my old college teammate from Kansas, who become a scoring machine out here in Boston. And trust me and him have had plenty of matchups so far in our careers. But in this particular matchup to open up the 2003 season, I got the best of it. See, he was a dog too, reaching the prime of his career in year 6. But I'm in year 8. And this is the time for me to shine and show the world and the NBA who the best shooting guard in the NBA is. Speaking of which, remember I was in Toronto putting on the offensive display. See, I had about everything in my bag at this point in my career that you can ask for. Handles, jump shot, finishing. And you already know about my defense and my flashiness. Somebody with a similar makeup as me is none other than Vince Carter. Yeah, that freshman that I played for UNC back in the day, just know he's a monster in the NBA now, putting on for the whole country of Canada. It's only a matter of time before he leaves Toronto. Can't stay in one place forever. That's something I know all too well about. Speaking of which, I remember the first game I played against the Hornets, but no longer in Charlotte. See, at this point they had moved to New Orleans, and as I mentioned before, they made Baron Davis face of the organization. See, me and Baron, we had a good run together. High scoring, flashy, a lot of highlights. But as far as winning in the postseason, it just didn't happen. The team felt like it was time for me to move on instead. So what do? First game back in the new arena, I punctured, almost breaking the rim, reminding the fans of what they missed out on. At the same time, it was time for me to move on anyway. See, in Chicago, I'm much more free, available to have my own game. And Baron, he's free too, away from the reins and the shadow of me. But as far as this matchup in particular, I put everything on display. From blocks, defense, getting out of transition, and doing what I do best, coast to coast action. And I had a certain look on my face this entire game. You can see it in my eyes. It was personal. Charlotte, I really feel like I gave my all to the city. It was disappointment that we weren't able to reach the championship, NBA Finals. Regardless, I felt like I did everything I could. From the days we had Anthony Mason and Glenn Rice, to the days we even had Jamal Mashburn, to the days we got Baron Davis. I put a lot of points on the board. Maybe one day you guys will see all the highlights I gave to that team. But right now, my main focus was killing them, reminding them who I am. Now, I don't know what the future of my career will hold if I'll ever win the NBA championship. But regardless, you guys will mention me as one of the best players in the NBA. Speaking of that, we went to LA. And unlike the first matchups I had as a rookie, this time around, Kobe Bryant was a 3-time NBA champion. Yes, 3 of them. 3-peated. And last year they did lose, so this year, I'm looking to bounce back and try to win a 4th one. You would think things are going all peachy and cream out there in LA, but the only problem is that they didn't know who was the alpha. Was it Kobe or Shaq? See, I remember when we first played LA back in the day, Shaq was hurt and Kobe was off the bench, but my oh my, have times changed. These two are the most dominant duo the NBA has ever seen. So every time we went out to LA, it was always a problem. At this point in my career, Kobe always got the best of me. But here in year 8, tonight felt different in my Bulls uniform. So I attacked the basket and flushed it right over Shaq, all over the number 34 on his back. It swung on the rim out here in LA, in the Staples Center. I dunked on Shaq so hard, I had him kicking rocks. Literally. I was off to a monster starting in the 2003-2004 NBA season, but the only thing holding me back was nagging injuries. I would be missing games after games, just sitting out, watching my team lose, missing matchups. There was one time I remember we were in Chicago. I had a knee injury, and I had to watch Jamal Crawford try to guard this rookie from New York. I think his name was Corey Wells. He was out there getting to it. And he didn't shoot that great, I admit. I just remember he had a lot of moves in his arsenal, and that would be my matchup. And normally I like to lock rookies down, but he got off that night. Speaking of rookies, there was this kid named Marshon that I used to sit next to on the bench when I was hurt a lot. He was the last guy on the roster, but I remember in practice, this man was a dog. He had a lot of skills. That's just the NBA for you. He couldn't find a spot in this rotation. But due to my injuries, the team had signed him just as insurance. But for him, well, he was having a family to feed. At the beginning of the 2004 calendar year, he had a kid, which motivated him to try to earn minutes on his roster. And every time we would sit on the bench together, he would tell me, man, if they just let me get 1 minute in this game, I'm gonna go off. And I believed him. I can't imagine playing for a family. So he motivated me, little did he know it. Knowing his situation made me want to start a family of my own, but that's besides the point. For right now, the focus was getting him an opportunity so he could play in the game, secure his future. And the opportunity came against the New Jersey Nets one night. Towards the end of the 2004 season, he would check in the game for the first time. He knew if he did anything positive, that could trend him in the right direction. With the injuries I was facing and dealing with, the playing time would be there for him potentially. So while this game was a blowout, he checked in, got his laces together, put on a show for his kid. He would grab a rebound and head out in the break. Just like me, 1-man fast break, he would spin off and get to the basket, lay, looking clean as butter. And I knew he had it. I'm telling y'all, it takes a lot to make the NBA, but it also takes the right opportunity to get minutes in the NBA. And while I wanted to celebrate his basket, I was excited. This man Fred Hoiberg would tap me on the shoulder telling me about his head coaching aspirations. I'm like, bro, I don't care about that right now. My man just got his first points in the NBA. He wasn't hearing it. Regardless, I felt the moment. As for Marshon, well, he wasn't done yet. The only problem with him, just felt like there was no position for him out there. His defense was okay, but he didn't have that strong size in order to keep up with the offensive players on the other teams. Sometimes he would get blown past. But his offensive bag was there though. He had a great post-up game for a guard. In his first minutes, he scored 4 points and contributed solidly. I mean, the game was already over regardless. With his minutes, he secured a spot for the upcoming 04-05 season. And while we weren't heading to the playoffs at all, I was having a solid year and I was healthier. And in 2005, well, I welcomed my first child. My wife gave birth to our first son, Tayvion Cole. And his middle name, well, I named him Marshon. Marshon was his godfather. See, for me, Marshon played an integral part in me wanting to start a family, realizing basketball was just a vessel. It's about the future and continuing in my generation. And as for Marshon, well, he didn't really get much playing time throughout the rest of the season, eventually got cut at the end of it. But we remained close off the court. We even raised our children together in Chicago. Marshon would eventually become an AAU head coach in the city, pushing the youth forward. While his NBA dreams didn't quite last as long as you would hope, he helped change my life for the better. The year is 2010. This is what? Year 15 for me? The NBA looks a lot different than it did when I first came in. Say the Seattle Supersonics transitioned to the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2008. Who would have saw that coming? Speaking of which, number 1 in red, yeah, that's Derrick Rose. The number 1 draft pick in 2008 who's taking the league by storm. Flashy and athletic. Same attributes you can apply to Russell Westbrook, number 0 for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Both in year 3 looking to make a big name for themselves this year. Speaking of big names, the Oklahoma City Thunder signed Corey Wells in the 2010 offseason. He had just won an NBA championship with the Celtics in 08, giving a huge impact off the bench. This time he's a starter. I remember playing him back in New York when he's with the Knicks. The captain of this ship is none other than Kevin Durant. See, entering year 4, he's already emerged as one of the elite scorers in the NBA. Can get a bucket from anywhere, and he's looking to lead this Thunder team to the NBA Finals at some point. They got to take baby steps. With cats like young Jeff Green on the roster from Georgetown, it can happen. And see, where I fit in is on the bench. At this point in my career, I know I can't provide the 20 points a game that I once did, but I'm hoping I can provide learning experiences, lessons, and wisdom, and maybe a couple buckets on the side. And off the bench with me is a young cat named James Harden that they drafted last year. There's reason to believe that this man could be a starter, but baby steps. Maybe that'll happen one day, but he's a bucket nonetheless, and he looks to lean on me and vice versa to get through this season. But as you can imagine, here in year 15, I didn't have a lot of highlights. A lot of my focus was off the court, raising my children. By this point, I had 2 sons now, Tayvion and now Trevor, and my focus was on being the best dad possible. The season was going well, but in February of 2011, I got a phone call that would change my life forever.
Hey, Will. I really don't know how to say this, but I just got word that there was a fatal car pileup in I-90 this morning back in Chicago, and it was just confirmed that one of the victims was Marshon. Look, Will, I'm really sorry for your loss. Please call me back as soon as possible before you do anything.
February of 2011, somebody near and dear to my heart was taken from this earth. Marshon Blue passed away. And while a range of emotions poured through me for days and weeks, I had to put myself in the shoes of his son, who was now without a father in this world. And like Marshon motivated me to start my own family, I decided I would step in for him and help raise his son like he was my own. And that I did. See, between my own 2 sons, Tayvion and Trevor, Kiante was like the brother they never knew they needed. And when he moved in the house, 3 of them were inseparable. They did everything together. The only thing Kiante did different was he had a major growth spurt, taller than both of my sons, but regardless, they still hooped together, all the way up until high school too. Fast forward in the year 2022, my son Tayvion is a junior and one of the best guards in the country. And my son Trevor is a freshman. Barely got minutes this season on varsity, but I was still excited for him nonetheless. And as for Mr. Kiante Blue, well, he was the best player in the state of Illinois as a senior. And all 3 of them were competing for a state title right there at the United Center. And I was right there to watch it. All smiles. I know Marshon is watching down from heaven as well. In a poetic justice fashion, the 3 amigos will lead the Whitney Young Dolphins to a state title in 2022. Kiante will go off to Villanova, where he'll become a young star, eventually become an NBA draft prospect, and getting taken in the lottery by the LA Lakers. It was pretty rocky, but he eventually got traded halfway through his rookie season to the New Orleans Hornets. See, I couldn't even believe that. Meanwhile, my sons were still balling out. My young son Trevor was finding his footing in high school, but Tayvion, a star emerging. He got a scholarship to Ohio State, where he dominated the college world, became the number 1 overall prospect. My pride and joy. Firstborn, continuing the Cole legacy. I mean, as a father, this is everything you can dream of. Even playing in the NBA, I didn't want to push it on my sons, but Tayvion seemed to take this thing head on. And in 2024, guess who took him number 1 overall? The Charlotte Hornets, the same team that drafted me. The Cole legacy will live on in Charlotte forever.
Breaking news in the Loop tonight. A shooting in a high-rise at 63 East Monroe. We're told an argument led to shots being fired on the 48th floor. A man was shot 3 times. He's in critical condition. Police arrested the gunman. No charges yet.
September of 2024. Nearly 3 or 4 months after my son got taken #1 overall by the Charlotte Hornets. At a celebration party to get ready for the NBA season, which I told him not to have. He was shot at this party. From a celebration in the NBA to a celebration of life, I saw my son everywhere I went. Chicago. Having to bury your firstborn, it's just a pain I hope nobody ever has to go through in life. All the memories from the time he was born, raising him while I was in the league, and watching him get older and play and be the best version of himself, constantly loop throughout my head. For Kiante, he decided he'll dedicate the 2024-25 season to Tayvion by switching to his favorite number and wearing his favorite accessories. And eventually, the next season, being named the NBA's most valuable player, 15 years after losing his father, Marshon. Not only did he win MVP, he will lead the New Orleans Pelicans to unfamiliar territory, winning an NBA championship, turning that pain into passion, with now Marshon and Tayvion looking over him. And as for me, well, I was right there along with him along the way, cheering and supporting like he was my own son. I'm glad he had people like Corey Wells enter his life, my former teammate who became the head coach of the Pelicans, and did a great job, if I must say so myself. But the one who took it the hardest was Trevor, losing his only brother in his life. He went from being the youngest to the only, and now the cold legacy will forever be in the hands of him.